Okay.
Let's go.
Welcome to Life in Real Estate. I'm Tammy Fulcher with 5 Star Real Estate, and I'm here with Julio Ramos from Chicago Title.
Here
Hello.
again.
I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah. It's
All
fun.
right, we've been having fun. Our last video, if you want to catch it, was on different types of tenancies. Really good one, because a lot of people don't know the difference, and it's important to know. This one, we're talking about real estate transaction fraud. It's happening in many different ways, and we really feel like we need to alert as many potential buyers and sellers as possible. So there are 3 areas we're going to cover today: email, wire fraud, and vacant land sales that people are scamming, saying they are owners of vacant land, that they are not owners of vacant land. And they are very sophisticated. And we have heard of actual transactions going all the way through to closing without it being caught. So those are the 3 things we're going to talk about today. Let's talk about, we have a buyer going through a transaction or a seller going through a transaction. And there's all kinds of documentation coming back and forth between the agent, clients, title company. So how do we protect them from email fraud? And part of this, big part of this, is also falls in the category of wire fraud.
Correct.
Right.
So with the email fraud, you need to understand it is more often than you can ever imagine. This is a daily occurrence. In Chicago Title, we train, they even send us emails just to keep us aware, to identify them.
Yes.
And they're testing us all the time.
That's a good thing.
And here's the unfortunate part of it. A bank, a reputable company will always have the safeguards in place.
Right.
The problem becomes, and this is the hard part, the problem becomes that typically the consumer is using a public domain that is just like what everybody uses, Gmail, AT&T, Yahoo.
Yeah, that's what we all use,
the security on those emails are not at a level that you can say, yes, I'm safe, right? So typically what happens is that these fraudsters will search for particular keywords. And that's how they find those emails. And believe me, this is their job.
It is.
They work 40 hours a week searching for this. This is not somebody
duplicate and replicate those emails, and it looks like exactly the same thing that's coming from your bank or your title company or even your agent.
Yep. So this is their job. This is how they make money, and they are very good at it, and they are constantly evolving and learning and improving and new tactics and unfortunately people fall for it because they don't pay attention to the details, to the address on the email and all that stuff. So
and even that's hard to catch.
Yes.
I mean, I went through some training. I didn't catch some of them, just going to be honest. It was a small c instead of a capital C, or a period that was in 2 spaces to the left and it should have been 2 spaces.
Correct.
It would be very hard for
it's
a consumer
unless
to
you're
really
focused
catch that,
looking for it, right? You're correct. So
yes.
in the pace of our life every day, we'll read it, and those are the details that we're less paying attention. But you should, when you get something, just look at the address. That's one of the first signs who's coming from, right? And you can figure it out very quickly if you do that too. So, but unfortunately, it is the client's email that always get hacked because they are receiving emails from the company. Well, that makes it easy for them because they cannot hack us, but they can hack your email, and then they can take the email that we send you, take the signature line, and take all that information, right? So because they're searching for that, anything that says wire, real estate, and all that stuff. So it will be one of the first precautions is like, don't discuss none of that I'm going to send money or down payment or like try to avoid certain keywords on a message. You don't say like, send me the information for the wire. If they find that, they're going to hack it. Like that's how they look for phrases, keywords. Now, one of the things when it comes to the emails, be pending to that. And if you have questions, if you don't feel comfortable, call your agent, call the title company, call your loan officer, call somebody and speak to them directly. No number on those emails.
No, do not use the number on the emails. Use the number that you know is the direct number to that
who you've been
title company,
communicating
bank,
prior.
or your agent. And if you don't know it, reach out to your agent. I had a client who did that. He was very aware of what was going on, and he had gotten an email from Chicago Title, and he said, Tammy, I'm not sure about this. Can you follow up with the title company and make sure that this is valid? And I did, and it was valid. The other thing I will say that a lot of very reputable title companies and banks are doing is the secure messaging system.
Correct, and they can do it.
I can tell you, my clients think it's a pain, but we're protecting you, and that's the only reason for it. Yes, you do have to log into a separate location, but you know then that all of that information is secure and is not going to get into the wrong hands.
Correct.
So
unless
I value that.
You want to stop by and give that directly at an office.
Right.
When it comes to wires,
yeah,
please understand this. If you're working with a title company, and I'm assuming that all the other title companies will do the same thing, everybody has one account and one account only where they receive those wires.
That's right.
That information,
wire account number.
That information never changes. It's always the same. A lot of them that I have seen, they're like a week, 2 weeks before, and they get a message, yeah, you need to wire the funds for closing now to be able to close on time. No title company will rush you 2 weeks ahead of time to send them the money, or force you to send the money.
You're not usually ready to close 2 weeks before you're supposed to close.
Yeah.
Unless you're getting upfront communication, and you would be aware of that. So never fall for that.
Correct.
Call your agent, call the title company.
Yes. Regardless of, one thing that we always stress and tell people, if you don't want to do a cashier check to do the closing, if you're gonna wire any money, please call the title company first. If you don't have that number, call your agent. They will provide you the direct number. Call the title company first, verify the information where you're gonna send it, and then you can proceed. I have situations where the person remember sitting at the bank, they were ready to press the button to send it. And that person said, let me call because I want to verify. And it happened to call, and his email got hacked. And it was a completely different account. It was somebody else, and he was going to send the wire, and they did that. They said, hey, you need to send the money ahead of time so we have everything, and we don't do that. And it happened that it decided to call the office. We verified, and we were like, don't send it because that's not us.
Wow. And this is happening, you guys, on a daily basis, regularly. And if you do wire money to a scammer, the likelihood of you getting that money back is almost zero.
Yeah. Once you send that, to recover that money, unless it's discovered right away, like right when you send it, we'll have to call the bank to put a hold on that and not send it. Because once it sends to recover, or the bank receiving to where it's going, it takes time and it takes a lot of effort to be able to recover those funds.
Yeah, I've heard of people who didn't recover their funds.
So back in 17, 18, there was a case, Arizona, Colorado, one of those two. And that's what triggered the wire safety form. Now, a lot of the title companies wants to have a wire safety form signed or acknowledged at the beginning of the transaction, telling people what to do, what not to do. That stemmed from a case that happened 17, 18, where if I am correct and I remember correct, a listing agent convinced the buyer, or the buyer's agent convinced the listing, it was a for sale by owner, to close with their title company. They had a transaction, and the seller got hacked. So when the transaction happened and they wire the funds to the scammer, and they lost about $380,000. To make the story short, they went to court. It was determined that the title company was 50% responsible and the agent was 50% responsible. So the agent had to pay half of the money and the title company has to pay half of the money. That's what triggered that. But more than that is educating people too, because you have to be careful.
You do.
A lot of people omit a lot of that. They don't check the information. They don't call. They don't verify. So it's never too bad to be a little bit too careful.
Agreed. And I would say anytime you get an email, do not ever use the email of that person or the phone number on that email.
Correct.
Make sure it's one that you know is valid.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, if you question it, reach out to your agent or reach out directly to the title company. Because again, we have FBI in our area. We have an agent assigned just to all the fraud that's happening around real estate. And make sure you're working with agents and title companies who really are on top of this, because you know, I wouldn't want to be an agent who's getting sued for 50% of somebody's loss.
Yes.
So those things are really important. And I think that with Chicago Title, I know for sure, and with other title companies, they're using what's called a secure system, which means you'll get an email, it'll say it's a secure email. You need to create a username and password to go into a secure environment where we know you can't be hacked. They are not getting hacked, where you can access information from them. And I know it's another step in the process, but it's better than losing $300,000. Right?
Yes. Okay. So it's very important that always verify the information. Never refer to the numbers or emails that are in there. Call your agent, ask questions, be careful. Don't share personal information or numbers or intentions there that can trigger any of those keywords.
In the emails.
On the emails.
Call me, call the title company and talk about it via phone. Do not put account information or those keywords that you talked about. I think that's really important for someone to know. Keywords like wire, transfer, EMD, account. You know, they're just keywords that are tipping these scammers off. They're able to hack in and replicate, and it looks like it's coming from title company,
and it happens,
or the bank, or me,
all the time. And then when it's on the other side, when the company's gonna send you a wire, if you're a seller, and they're gonna they're gonna collect information at the table, and then verify it with you. And most of the times we will call to verify the information with you. If it's not an employee that took the information directly with you, we're going to call and we're going to verify that information before we send it, because we want to be sure that we're sending it to the right person.
Yes. Okay. Our next big one is vacant land.
Vacant land.
Oh my
big deal.
Big deal. So to set this one up for our viewers, there are many scams happening with vacant land, where scammers go in, they search public records, and they look for vacant land with absent owners a lot of times. Correct. Not always, but that's the easiest pick, right? People who own a piece of land, but they don't live there. And what they're doing is they're calling agents and saying they want to sell it. Now, agents are doing due diligence, some more than others. So make sure, you know, your agent is doing due diligence if you have vacant land to sell. Get a driver's license, look up the tax document, compare names, work with the title company, because what's happening is they have gotten so sophisticated, the scammers, that we have heard of transactions closing without them ever being caught. That's how sophisticated they've become. So Julio's going to talk a little bit about precautions, how we can avoid that. And again, I'll just say, make sure you're working with an agent who's doing the due diligence on making sure that they are truly working with someone who actually owns that piece of property.
And we're seeing it, and mostly it's been vacant land, but we've seen second homes or vacant homes that are not being occupied. And understand this, a lot of this information is public records. You can go to a county, you can see who owns the property, you can see if they occupy the property or where they live.
Actually, it says owner occupied, yes or no.
And or even in the documents that are recorded after mail it to this address, and it's a different address, so they can assume that it's a not owner occupied. But in terms of the vacant land, it becomes so much easier because there's nobody living there. There's not a property there, so there's nobody that can actually go to that property and talk to the owner.
That's right.
Right? So what they do, and again, for the newer agents, for people that have vacant land and are going to start selling or planning on selling that vacant land, there's a lot of what's going on, and they're taking advantage of that, and
really
they are using the excuse because with every invention, everything that we do that brings a lot of positive, always there's some negative that somebody
side.
wants to take advantage of
Right.
that benefit to take an advantage. Exactly. Yeah. So now we have that, like we can do remote closing, we can do mobile closings. We can do it. People that are out of state, like, hey, I want to sell that piece of property.
Right.
Oh, you don't have to come here. I'll send you the documents, DocuSign, and all this stuff.
Right.
Like Tammy said, ask for an ID, that they send you an ID so you can verify that, in our area that we have forewarned. That a realtor association gives you, where you can verify information and check background of people and help you determine,
and
right?
Make sure that the phone number matches up.
Exactly.
So forewarn for our viewers is something that our association, our Grand Rapids Association, provides us as part of our fees. And it's an app where we can put in a phone number or an address to verify who a person is. Correct. Which has been provided to us as a safety feature. And we're also now seeing it as an opportunity to help prevent fraud.
Correct.
But it's a great tool. I know most agents in our area use it, and it has helped save me tremendously.
Yes.
Not only from possibly not showing properties to certain individuals who
put yourself in dangerous situations,
but also now fraud.
Yeah. So they will take advantage of that. So if an agent out there is doing your due diligence, to be sure, because if they're not sitting in front of you, you don't really know.
You have no
So
idea.
what they're doing is that they're doing all that process and they are selling that, collecting the money.
Right.
And then when the owner comes, it's like, hey, how I didn't sign this, I didn't sold this, and all that.
Potentially after it's happened. And I've heard of several that have been listed on the MLS. They have buyers, so there's a contract in place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until, you're 3 weeks into it or so that you find out that it's a scam. Correct. And the seller has come forward to say, listen, I didn't agree to any of this. This isn't me. Mm-hmm. And it just causes a lot of havoc on both sides for everybody.
Yep. And to the title company that closed that, because there's going to be a claim. So we're taking, I don't want to feed the criminals out there, but we do in Chicago Title, we actually have a process where we can verify, and we will contact directly the owners of the property. I'm not going to say the way that we communicate with them, but we verify it, and we have caught a lot of it that way. So every time that we deal with a vacant land or anything like that, we're going to verify that we're actually talking to the owner, or this is the person selling the property, right? And we have caught a lot of that, so please be careful with that. A lot of people have asked us like title lock and monitoring
like an app
and monitoring
service,
services.
Right?
Yeah, okay. It's good. You just need to understand that it's just a monitoring service. So what you're paying is for a monitoring service
that will give you alerts if anything
gets recorded
for your property.
On your property, correct. So it's basically like the credit monitoring services, that if somebody pulls your credit or somebody posts something new on your credit, if your score changed, they send you a notification. Right. It's the same thing for the property.
Okay.
What I will advise before anybody does that, because it's a good way to protect your property.
Yeah, at least you're getting alerted, but there are more steps.
But there's more steps.
So there are more steps.
Correct. And you have to check, and when you get certain policies with the title company, when they buy or sell, there's certain coverage towards fraud and impersonation. Right. But the other thing that I will recommend is check with your county, because I know there's a lot of counties that are starting to have that service for free. So you can sign up, go to your county website and check, because there's a lot of them that are starting to use that
great
service.
Advice. And it's free,
it's free.
Of it.
Yeah, and it's basically the same thing. It's monitoring. So if there's anything recorded under that parcel number or that address, then it will pop and it will send you a notification. Okay. And that way you can keep track of everything.
And again, if it's free, I do it. And even if it's not, it might be worth it.
Correct.
If you are a landowner, or like Julio said, it's not just land now, vacant land.
Correct.
Now we're looking at people who are being scammed who have second homes, vacation homes.
Correct.
Because it's anything that basically is not owner occupied that these scammers are trying to take advantage of. So we have a lot of fraud that's happening, but the good news is, really good agents, the title companies, banks, mortgage companies, ones I work with anyway, we're staying on top of this and getting ahead of it.
Absolutely.
So, anything else you want to add before we end?
Well, that's on the 3 ones that we wanted to talk.
There's always
again,
more.
And if you're remember, this is all public records. A lot of people will receive mail with unnecessary things, and like for an example, there is a card that goes out because once it get recorded, they can see who bought a property when it was transferred. It's public record. Will send. They have to buy their title. They have to buy the title, and they will charge them $50 or something like that. You can get your copy for free. You can go down to your county and pay $3 for the copy, and they will give you a copy. In Michigan, at least, we know that. It's once it gets recorded in the county, you really don't need the paper to have it in front to prove that, because it will always shows on the record. Right? So when title company is going to go and do that search, and we check, 40, 50 years back, we're going to check everything to be sure that everything is in order. They check on that. In this case, they look at who's in the owner now and start sending a lot of that junk mail and trying to get them to get that and pay for stuff that really is not needed. You can talk to your agent. There's ways to get it. The title company that you close will be able to provide you a copy. So there's no need.
If you're getting an email that says you have to pay for any type of documentation or service related to a real estate transaction, call your agent. Or call the title company, or call your lender, whoever that documentation is coming from, whether it's mail, email, a text, it doesn't matter. Just make sure you're calling and you're only using a number that you have verified using in the past. And
specifically now that there's the other one that the association have released and has been sharing with people about sending invoices on a transaction.
Point. Okay. Yes. Forgot about that. This is another one we just learned about from our association, our Grand Rapids Area Association. We have had clients, buyers or sellers, who have closed recently on a transaction, and they're getting invoices with the letterhead, basically, of the real estate agency. So I'm with 5 Star. So say you get an email from 5 Star. It has my signature block on it. It has everything. It looks like it came from me. And this email is saying you still owe a certain amount of money for certain services. It's a scam. And if you have any question about that, and you should question every single one, I would say just by default, give me a quick call. Same with the title company. Same with whoever you used as your lender. Because they are finding ways around this, and you're going to open that email and say, wait a minute, I thought I paid for that at closing, or I didn't even know I was being charged for this. And hopefully it would cause a red flag, but it doesn't always, because you'd say, oh, okay, well, all right, it's only $50. Well, those numbers add up quickly to a scammer when they're doing it thousands of times a day. So just, again, another scam that we've become aware of, helping to educate you and make you aware of them so that you don't fall victim to them.
Absolutely. So ask questions. That's the best advice that way. It's like if you receive something, you're not sure, you have questions, just contact your agent. If it's lending related, contact your lending. Or if it's with the title, if you don't have the number of the title, just either stop by or call your agent and ask for the number and talk directly to them. Don't ever refer to the numbers that you're receiving, because you want to be sure that you're not calling somebody else that said that it's that. Just a number that you have talked to somebody already there, or ask your agent to provide you the correct number and then call.
Absolutely. We hope this was really helpful information. Spread it. Share this podcast, because the more people know, the less that this is likely to happen, and we want to see this happen
Absolutely.
much less frequently.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.